Ladies and gentlemen, what you gonna do, brother? Oh yeah! Woo! What? If you smell what the rock.
You got the wrong guy. I'm the dude, man.
Welcome to another edition of Around the Turnbuckle. I'm the Big Alboski. He right there is Professor Keith. And with us from Texas, man, Marcus Jonston. We've been waiting a while for you, my man. How you doing?
All right. How you doing, fellas?
Well, we're good.
We're doing excellent, sir. It is the night before the Super Bowl. I don't know if you're a football fan, but I am, and I get excited. I don't care who's playing. Obviously, I would love the stupid Eagles to be there, but they're never there. So, with that in mind, we got Mr. Brady, and we got Mr. Brady, and we got Mr. Mahomes, and it's a heavyweight title fight tomorrow.
There you go.
I'm ready. All right. Before we talk to Mark about everything, his career is whatever's going on in Texas, all that cool stuff, I would be remiss, Keith, if I did not mention the fact that we lost another one. The natural Butch Reed died at age 66 yesterday. Terrible. 66 years old, far too young. But the natural, I have a lot of good memories of the natural. My biggest one, of course, was I'm a huge Macho Man Randy Savage fan, as you know. And the natural Butch Reed was one of his opponents at WrestleMania 4. He wrestled in the tournament, and he wrestled Macho Man wrestled 4 times, but I believe it was his first opponent that night was the natural Butch Reed. Keith, what would you like to say? Would you like to say anything about the natural Butch Reed?
Yeah, I mean, there was a time Butch Reed was probably the best kept secret in the wrestling business. I mean, he had legendary matches with the Junkyard Dog. He was a big star in Mid-South when Bill Watts was going to try to go national. One of the great arguments against the old, Bill Watts was a racist. Well, Bill Watts' formula was usually find a big, tough, impressive-looking black man and push him to the moon. And boy, they didn't get much tougher or more impressive than Butch Reed. Most of my memories of Butch Reed are when he was teamed with Ron Simmons in WCW as Doom. And I definitely recommend to our audience, if you're not familiar with Butch Reed, if you want to look up some things with Butch Reed, especially if you're a fan of the APA, go look up Doom. Just 2 big, impressive guys throwing people around the ring. They look like they could kill you. Their stuff looked like it killed you.
They were tag team champions at one time.
Tag team champions. They were managed by the late great Woman.
Woman, correct.
You can't go wrong with Butch Reed. Just a great, great talent gone too soon. We definitely are mourning with his friends, with his family, and of course with his fans. Butch Reed, 66, unfortunately passed away. Took 3 heart attacks almost simultaneously to take Butch Reed down. That's a testament to his toughness.
One tough son of a bitch, I'll tell you that. From Kansas City, Missouri, he was. I have a thing here that WWE released out here. From Kansas City, Missouri, real quickly, I'll say he was actually a football player for the Kansas City Chiefs for a short time. Started out in Mid-South Wrestling promotion, as most wrestling fans know what Mid-South Wrestling is. Went up against guys like Ric Flair, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Jim the Anvil Neidhart. In WWF, came in right before WrestleMania 3, and he actually had a WrestleMania 3 match against Coco Beware, which he won. And then again, like I said before he was in WrestleMania 4 as part of the 14-man tournament for the vacant WWF title at the time, and he took on the Macho Man in round 1. So, I mean, and again, Keith mentioned with Doom in WCW with Ron Simmons, but I tell you, 66 years old is far too young. So our condolences to the family and everybody and all the fans. of the natural Butch Reed, 66 years old. So, with that being said, we welcome Marcus Jonston, who from Texas. Marcus, once upon a time, Spitfire Marcus Jonston was a fan of wrestling before you thought I want to try this.
Mhm.
Take us back to that guy, and how did you get into wrestling in the first place?
Oh, all right. So I'll never forget my first time experiencing wrestling on TV. It's funny. Whenever I had moved from one town in Georgia to another, I had met this kid, John Denmark. I always called him Bubba. And I stayed at his house almost every night. I mean, we clicked like Bubba and Forrest Gump, we were just best friends right off the bat. And every Monday and Thursday, they were watching Raw and SmackDown. Well, I hadn't caught any of that yet. I happened to go over there for my first time when they were, you remember how it used to when you tried to watch something that you didn't pay for, you get like the scribbles all over the TV and the static and all that, but you could still hear it.
Right.
They had one of the pay-per-views on. I had never watched wrestling before in my life, but they were. I want to say it was Stone Cold versus The Rock. It wasn't one of their Mania matches. It was something they were doing before 17, and I remember just like I couldn't see the match, but I could hear JR and I could hear King. JR. I mean, he could suck you into it. Sure. No matter what, if you liked it or not. But I was sitting there watching, and half of his family was torn. Half the family wanted The Rock to beat the crap out of Stone Cold, and the other half wanted Stone Cold to beat the crap out of The Rock. And by the end of it, they were just so riled up. I was like, wow, I've never seen like everyone else in that area that are into like NASCAR and baseball. I never really got into those two things. But man, they were so riled up about wrestling. I was like, God, I gotta come back tomorrow and see what the fuss is about. They were into it, and like I said, JR calling it made all the difference in the world. And so I got to where every Monday and Thursday I was over there watching with them. Just picking up on who a lot of the wrestlers were, and me and Bubba, we got to the point where we'd go out in his yard and start beating each other over the heads with the play school chairs and jumping out of the trees like it was the top ropes and stuff like that. And my middle name, my shoot middle name is Ray, and because we called him Bubba, we always went by Bubba Ray together. Together. Yeah, and boy, we playing SmackDown 2 on the old PlayStation. The Hardy Boys and all that stuff. Man, we just had a blast, and we'd do the whole Too Cool dance like we just ate it up as kids, and we'd get in fights and people would laugh at us because we'd be in the middle of a fight and start busting out wrestling moves on people. But then I moved down here to Texas, and nobody here that I went to school with was really into wrestling, but I mean, you couldn't push me away from it. I was still so sucked into it. I got to the point where I was like, of course, like everybody else, recording all the matches on VHS. And I wanted to be I always knew I was going to get into wrestling one way or another. I didn't know what that path was going to be. So as a young kid, I started saying, well, I need to learn my history and be able to remember a lot of the stuff that I'm watching. So like every show that I would watch, I had a journal and I would write down, this match went this way, and they such and such interfered, or I had every card just written down into journals and how it went, and who was the good guys, who was the bad guys, who had to have help to get over and stuff like that. Like I was just so stuck into it, and I got to be about 15 or 16, and I asked my mom to send me to the Shawn Michaels School down in San Antonio, and we just didn't have the money. It was just me and my mom, single income. She didn't have the money to do it. Mm-hmm. And so I really didn't know. I was like, I'm going to have to find my own way, it took me forever. And it was probably about when I was 23, one of my friends said, hey man, there's a wrestling show in Amarillo. Do you want to go out and check it out? I was like, damn right, I don't want to go check it. I had no idea we had wrestling in Amarillo. And we went, and
And
this
you
place had
said
been here.
you studied your
This place had already.
history.
This place had already been here for 17 years. I had no idea about it, and the guy that took me up there, he stopped the owner of the the guy that runs the place, and he said, "Hey, my boy here would like to be a part of the show," and so I ended up coming up the next day for training. My first day of training, my car ran out of gas halfway between Fritch and Amarillo, and I hitchhiked the rest of the way up here to get my first day of training in. And my trainer had to drive me back to my car and help me get gas in it so I could get home that night. I mean, I was just in love, from the very get-go.
That's dedication, man.
Yes, sir. That's what you got to have, If you want it, you want it.
So you mentioned pre-show that you wanted to talk about guys first getting into the business. So when we're at that spot right now where you were first getting into the business. So what advice would you give guys who are just like, they want to do this, they think they can do this? What should they do next?
First, don't make the same mistake I did. Look for wrestling schools. Don't think that the ones with the big names are the only ones out there. Just because it don't have Seth Rollins or Booker T or Shawn Michaels or anything like that on it does not mean it's not there. That was my biggest mistake, was not actually looking harder to actually find this place. I mean, I could be so much further in my career already had I known about this place when I was originally trying to get into it,
Right.
I could already be at least a good 5-6 years in. So that's the first thing, is do the looking, go find you a school. And once you get to that school, be patient. It's going to be hard those first couple of days. You're going to wonder, man, can I really hack this? This is tough. If you want it, just got to be patient and believe in yourself.
So what was the first time that you got into the ring and actually had your first match? When was that?
My first match was September 28th of 2018. I was in a luchador gimmick. I'd come up with my own little squash gimmick. The name was even funny. It's El Mosquito.
Nice.
So, I was getting squashed like a mosquito, and people would always use that. I'm gonna crush you like the bug you are, and all that. So, we had an outdoor show, probably about 15 miles down the road from where we are now. One of our special events, and it was a big battle royal. And man, I was so excited. I have this karaoke app on my phone. I've always been real big into music and singing, writing songs, stuff like that. And I was so hyped up after that first battle royal. My next day, I spent like an hour at work just writing down a song about wrestling. Like the whole song was just about wrestling and how it was just exhilarating, And once you have that first match, that's all you want to do. Like there's nothing else.
Alternatively, you might know that maybe it's not for you, right? I mean,
yes, yeah.
I'm sure that's happened a few times.
Exactly. There's going to be people that get in there and they'll be like, but then again, if you've made it all the way to your first match and that's when you decide you don't want it,
it's too late.
I don't know what to say about that, because I mean, if you don't want it, you ought to be able to figure it out pretty quick. If you make it,
so it was a luchador gimmick. Were you wearing a mask?
Yes. It was actually a La Sombra. It was a La Sombra mask. God, my mind just went blank. But Almas's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, all right.
My son's chiming in. Is everything truly bigger in Texas? Yeah, that's my son, the troll.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I guess
the answer to that question, Alan, is yes. We were talking pre-show.
We don't. It depends on what it is you're talking about. We don't have mountains or trees. So,
No.
I mean,
Yeah.
our trees are shrubs, so our trees
Yeah,
aren't
I
bigger.
live in a mountain town. I live in a mountain town in the Appalachian Mountains in Pennsylvania at this moment. So he's used to walking out the
I
door and being surrounded by mountains and trees around us, you know.
I have a joke about Texas. We don't have trees. We just have weeds that never get cut.
There you go.
But yeah, that first match and that first gimmick really got me over. And like there was a thing my trainer told me. He said it's important, or he said it actually helps a lot for new guys that don't have lots of ring time to go under a mask, because you're able to go out there and get that ring time, get comfortable in the ring, and still kind of suck without it be your name and your face being attached to it. How he says is you get to get that suck out. You know what I mean? Get that nervousness out. And
Keith, a lot of guys have done that, right?
Absolutely. I mean, especially in Texas, The Undertaker, when he first started, he was under a hood as Texas Red. It's a great idea. You're right. And you're right, because if you're this sucky jobber that's not that great and you're losing all the time, that character disappears one day. People aren't going to be really looking for him. They're not going to be trying to figure out, hey, who was that masked man? So you're right. You know, it gives you the ability to basically go out there, fail, get embarrassed, and look back at the video and go, oh, God, why? Why?
But, yeah, and it gives you that chance.
Nobody cares. It's not going to come back on you.
Exactly. Yeah, you get that chance to really get all your mistakes out of the way and learn from them, and practice promos and your speech and stuff like that and then that way when say Marcus Jonston finally debuts, all the crap that El Mosquito messed up and screwed up on, none of that brings down my name at starting off, you know what I mean? So it really that was a huge help, because I spent about a year in that gimmick, and I was refereeing at the same time.
Right. Which a lot of guys do. I mean, the more guys we meet, Keith, that's how a lot of them start off. They the promoters or school owners or whoever you want to talk about puts them in the ring as a referee to see how that works first, to see their the ring awareness and things like that, right? I mean, it's stuff that you can't be taught without being in the ring.
Right, it gives you a sense of how to put the match together, timing, all of that stuff, right? Kind of gives you an idea of like, okay, this is how long it should go, this is how I get to a finish. And it gives you an appreciation for the third guy in the ring when you're not the referee.
Yes,
You've got a lot more appreciation for him now because you've been there. So it makes you less likely to not want to cooperate with him.
That's a great point.
Because it's a tough job.
Exactly
tough job. We just saw at the Royal Rumble last week how tough a job that is. I felt horrible for the second guy in that Roman Reigns 7 Owens match to have to sit there during that finish and look like a goof.
He looks like a goof because he starts counting and then he stops counting.
Yeah.
What a terrible situation that is. And we actually, just like the week before the Rumble, we had this guy, Alejandro, that's one of our refs. And during the match, there was two guys that spilled out of the ring, and they it wasn't supposed to end at a double count out, but neither one of them made it back in at 10. And he was like, 9 and 10, ring the bell. And I mean, though that wasn't supposed to be the finish, he got so much praise when he got back there for doing what was supposed to be doing. He did his job to the fullest and didn't crap on the match by 9.
Yeah, it wasn't his fault. Right.
Oh, it's broke.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, you're right.
Back in there.
And like I said, he go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, he got backstage and everybody was praising him for that. I mean, when you do your job to the fullest and you take it seriously, everyone will take you seriously.
And you should. They should. So when did El Mosquito become Spitfire Marcus Jonston?
I had a match against a fella named Lazarus James. We were for NTWA, and the booker there, I was kind of trying to. He didn't know whether or not he even wanted to use me, but I just went down there just in case, there was an open spot. It's what you got to do, guys.
Yeah.
I went down there just in case there was an. And I had 2 different sets of gear there, but he liked the mosquito gear. He just didn't like the mosquito gimmick. Like I had a cape and everything on, and I did the booker. He was like, "Well, let me see how you come out." And so I did my entrance and springboarded in, and the cape was all flying and everything. He was like, "That was cool." He was like, "But take off the cape, take off the mask, and take off the shirt and try it again." And so I did all that and did it again. He was like, "I'll book you. I won't book Mosquito." And I was like, "Okay." And he was like, "So what's your name?" And just off the top of my head, Spitfire Marcus Jonston.
Where'd the Spitfire come from?
That was actually my trainer kind of helped me out with that one. Like I had the Marcus Johnson, and and I guess because I'm the underdog in almost every match. I'm the smallest guy on the roster. I really am. But I always show that fight, always keep fighting, show that fire. And so that was what he just came up with, Spitfire Marcus Johnston. And I ran with it. I thought it sounded good, and now I'm making merch and all that stuff. So my daughter even says sometimes, "I don't like our last name. Can we change it to Jonston?"
You know this guy, Dorian Robinson? He comes in, he starts throwing comments your way.
Oh, Dorian, man.
Let's go. That's my boy.
I hope you're preparing for that cage tonight, buddy.
He's wrestling tonight.
Yes, he's got a cage match tonight. Big cage match.
Now, is this an event with fans, or like what's going on down there tonight?
Yes, we do have fans. We are keeping everything as COVID friendly as we can. We got like 5 chairs, and then we'll skip 6 feet, have another 5 chairs, and then go 6 feet back, and then do the same thing behind that. I mean, we definitely have less chairs than we would normally have, but
Right.
I mean, we've still been getting plenty of fans, and every chair that we've had has been getting filled. So
I'm always ready, he says.
Always ready. Yeah, I'll give him that.
Yeah. So I mean, what time does this event start?
Starts at 7:05 our time, so it'll be 8:05 y'all's time.
Okay, gotcha.
We got doors opening at 6:30, so we're good on time. No worries there.
Well, if anybody's watching in that area, go check them out. I mean, did you sell all the tickets already?
What's that?
Did you sell all the tickets that you were allowed to sell?
Right now we haven't really been doing a whole lot of pre-sale tickets for some reason. I don't know what the reason behind that is, but I mean, every time when those doors open, the line stops, and the line keeps going until the seats are full, and we even have some people standing at a lot of the shows. So
people are dying for wrestling, man. People are dying for wrestling because
people are dying to do anything right now.
They're dying to wrestle. They're dying to be fans in the stands because, I mean, all no disrespect to what WWE is doing with the Thunderdome and all that, but that's the biggest thing I miss is when I'm watching wrestling to have a live crowd. Watching the Rumble this past Sunday with the Thunderdome, just didn't do it for me as far as crowd reactions and things like that. You know what I mean? Like, I missed that. And Keith and I, we were supposed to go to several local events here over the past few months that have been canceled because, this or that changes. The rules change all the time, or there's an outbreak, or this happens or that happens. It's nuts.
Yeah, Pennsylvania and Jersey
are
really tough with their COVID restrictions right now. And
Urban Legend, I want to tear it up with this guy. He's good. You know Urban Legend?
I don't believe I do, honestly, but I will have to check him out.
Yeah,
you check him out.
Checking me out.
He's money.
I'm always willing to mix it up with somebody new. So by all means,
well, he wrestles in Virginia for the VCW.
Oh, well, I'd always love to go to Virginia. So
Dorian Robinson, I just sold 7 just for you, my guy. There you go.
My man.
Yeah, Urban Legend
does good on it. that's one other thing as new guys, man. The most important thing you can do as a new guy is promote. If
Yes.
you are trying to get on that card, you better show them that you want to be on that card. Like,
Yep.
holy cow! It took me about 2.5 years just to make my first flyer. But you best believe I handed out more flyers in those 2.5 years than anyone else in my roster.
Yeah.
But that shows that's what
Right.
sticks out to these guys. Show that you want to be here. I haven't wrestled since the pandemic. I hurt myself right before we were supposed to reopen.
Mhm.
I was supposed to have a big match. I guess my last match was in October. We had a Halloween show for Renaissance Halloween outdoor show. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I won a battle royal to get a title shot, and then I hurt myself before my title shot. And so I've been waiting since the end of October to get back in the ring, but I have been here every single week and every week.
That
for
sounds
training.
like Legend, right, Keith? Legend hasn't wrestled since October or something like that, too, right? Something like that.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Keith preaches that all the time about self-promotion, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
you have to, because who's going to advocate for you better than yourself? And nobody's going to make it happen for
Exactly.
you. Like you just said, if you're not going to promote yourself, hey, there's 4 or 5 guys that are going to do it for you. And right where you are, I mean, Amarillo, come on. Wrestling history up and down. The Funks ran Amarillo for how many years? Texas, such a great state for wrestling. The Funks, the Von Erichs, the Blanchards.
Yep.
And the fans eat it up.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, that's why it's so gratifying to hear you saying, in Amarillo, Texas, you guys put a show together and you got people out the door. That's so great.
Gangrel was his last match before COVID, Keith.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, he wrestled Gangrel.
Man.
Yeah, I mean, Legends. The only thing holding Irvin Legend back, Marcus, from becoming a star is COVID. If COVID never happened, I'm telling you, that guy would be either in NXT by now, or he'd be in the Performance Center getting ready to go to NXT.
Well, I will say I'm sorry I'm not familiar with you, but man, like if you're
look, he's on YouTube.
Man, just keep plugging, man. You'll get there.
Listen, man, the guy's in phenomenal shape. No, I'm not, he's in phenomenal shape. Check him out on YouTube. All his matches, any of his matches, he had some decent, like amazing matches over the past like 2 or 3 years before COVID. And he was right there where you are now. And like 3rd, 4th, 5th year in, and he was getting ready to make some stuff happen. And COVID hit, and he's like, so all he's doing now is just staying in shape and just, waiting for things to start to open up again, and he'll get back. I mean, he's dying to get back in the ring. What I love about this show, Keith, is staying in contact with everybody. So Marcus, like, when things start happening for you, man, like keep us posted, because like we're gonna follow your career just like everybody else's careers that we follow that have been on this show.
Absolutely, and you guys have been turning me on to new guys to follow. I mean, that is one of the awesome things about this is it's getting, and this is why I tell y'all thank you every time I speak to you, because you guys are giving us that platform to get ourselves out there, let other eyes get on us. That's just amazing. I honestly wanted to do like a kind of like an all-in kayfabe podcast, not before the whole Zoom calls and all that was a thing.
Right.
I wanted to but this right here, what you guys are doing, like how you can get anyone from anywhere and have their face on here and have their voices heard and get their attitudes out there for people to see. I kind of like this guy, how this guy carries himself, or, I mean, that's amazing, because that's not something that we've had for a very long time.
Exactly. And this was born out of COVID. It was just going to be Keith and I and maybe another friend or maybe a couple friends sitting around talking wrestling. And then we met some local wrestlers here in our area. we had them on and we got excited about wrestling again because the current product had been irritating us and pissing us off. And so we got to know these guys, and then we went to go see them. You know, before COVID got really bad in the summer, we actually got to go to some of these events, meet these guys, and it's been infectious. And the next thing you know, this guy comes on and he says, "Hey, I know a guy who might want to come on and tell his story." And then the next thing you know, it has buffaloed from there. Now they're contacting us.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And we love it. We love it.
Spider webbing out to every different direction.
Yes,
wrestling fans.
It's easy to go to a show and have wrestlers walk up to us and be like, "Oh man, thank you!" Like they're fans of
Thanks,
us,
David.
Dude, we didn't do anything. Like you guys are the ones out there hurting yourselves for our entertainment. Like we thank you. Like it's mind blowing to me that like they would come up to us and thank us. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and like we had Rudy Boy
That's what I love about this. I love the
Rudy
community.
Boy Gonzalez. Have you heard of Rudy Boy Gonzalez?
Yes, I am.
He's down there in Texas. He's down there in Texas for TCW, I believe.
He's doing awesome work out there.
He was on our show, and he gave me
watching that one.
He gave me and Keith the biggest compliment we've ever gotten from anybody in the wrestling business. I mean, here's a guy who's a promoter who has worked with guys like Daniel Bryan and Shawn Michaels and guys like that, and he's given us and Tully Blanchard,
Tully the Blanchards,
Tully Blanchard, and he's given us a compliment. Keith, what did he say exactly? Like, I don't want to misquote him.
It was mostly, about he appreciates what we're doing. That he appreciates
basically what you just said.
Platform, yeah.
The platform you're
from
giving,
like a guy like him that's been in the business for 20, 30 years.
Rudy Gonzalez, I go to him for advice and information and opinions and tips and stuff like that. And I've never even met him face to face. But he's always so willing to help me out with advice. And, I might not do it that way. Maybe consider trying this, and see how you feel about that, and he's just always been great about that. And I love watching his training videos that he puts up too.
Yeah, it's like every day.
He's
every
doing
day.
great work. He's doing great work.
My son is asking you, sorry if I didn't do enough research, but what's happening with your quest for the TOT Junior Heavyweight title?
All right, so like I said, I won that big battle royal to get a shot at any title that I wanted. When I picked the title that I was going to go after, it was because it was a big guy. The fans were really behind him. They really respected him. And I said, I want to face somebody that the fans respect, face a respectful champion. I hurt myself, and he came out as I came out to apologize to the fans for not being able to give him the title match that I, personally requested. He came out and shoved me down and started hitting me with my own crutch. So until I am medically cleared, I am doing everything I can to make his life hell. A few weeks ago, I got in the sound booth and was turning off the lights, during his matches, making sure the ref couldn't see his pin or anything like that. Nice. And then the time after that, I actually went out and had a big old poster board that I used for a petition to let me be the special guest referee for his following matches. And so I'm just sticking it to him every way that I can. And Alton Black, if you're watching this, I ain't done with you yet.
Nice. Well, there's a segment we do every show, and you've watched our show, and we do it usually around the halfway point. We ask all our guests who are professional wrestlers, of course, if there was a dream match that you could book for yourself against anybody, alive, dead, retired, still active, anybody in the free world, who would that be and why?
I guess this is just the part of me that hasn't quite grown up yet. I always said as a kid that I knew I make it when I take a choke slam from Kane. Because, like I said, I'm a little guy,
Nice.
and he was giant. And I was like, God, I bet he could just ragdoll me, you know. And Lazarus James, like that's the closest I've gotten to it. I don't know if y'all know Lazarus James, but he is a big old boy. And man, he put me up for a choke slam. My feet went over my head and just drove the heck out of me. But I always said when I get choke slammed by Kane, I know I made it.
It's funny because he was in the Rumble this Sunday, and no surprise to me, he usually does show up for just the Rumble. That's kind of like his thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ever since he set that record, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, he's got to keep it going.
I think
'Cause
that was the first Rumble I ever actually watched. The same one that had Drew Carey in it. Y'all remember that one?
Right, yeah. Where he's in the ring by himself, and then the music hits, and it's Kane.
Yeah.
And then the fire, and then Drew Carey sold
he's
that
just like, I'm
perfectly.
done.
Yeah, he's
He
like, I'm
did.
done. He steps
He
over
really
the top rope. He left. Thanks for coming. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Keith, you have a dream match opponent for Spitfire?
You know, a couple names come to mind. I mean, the Spitfire name, the way he's talking about how he works and how he prefers to do it, and it makes me think about Wildfire, Tommy Rich.
Whoa, that's a name. That's
Yeah.
a name.
I
remember him.
I think we could have something on our hands there. I think we could sell some tickets for that.
I like it.
It's gonna have to be another name I write down there. Wildfire.
Wildfire Tommy Rich. That's before your time, son. But Wildfire Tommy Rich, Wildfire Tommy Rich was back in AWA, early WCW days.
Okay.
Yeah, former NWA champion. He worked
Former
for Crockett
NWA
for a while.
champion. Heck of a star there. I'm gonna give him something a little bit more down his alley because we're talking Texas, right? He said if he makes it, if he choke slam from Kane, or maybe get a sweet chin music to his mouth from Shawn Michaels.
Ooh, yeah, I love Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, and I didn't doubt that you would, but I mean, I that'd be a wrestling lesson for you.
Yeah, no kidding.
Shawn Michaels.
No kidding. And boy, you got to imagine that anyone that ever stepped in the ring with him, no matter how long they've been in there, they learned something that night.
Undertaker has said many times that was his greatest opponent as far as not just the matches they had, but also the fact of that it made his job easier. And he always trusted he always trusted Shawn. And they just had this great chemistry. And that's why those back-to-back matches at Mania 25 and 26 were so good. And, by a lot of fans, two of the best matches of all time.
Yes. And the story they told as well. Holy cow. It was something else. You'll never forget Shawn Michaels coming down in that all-white jacket and the white.
Yeah, down from the heavens, right?
Oh my goodness! Yeah, that was something else.
Well, because he's a Christian, that was the whole thing, right?
I'll tell you what.
You mentioned the daughter earlier. How many kids you got? Just the one?
I have two daughters.
You have two daughters,
Kaylee Ray and Sky Nicole.
And have they seen you wrestle?
They have. Not as often as I like, but. Right. When they do come, it counts. There was
absolutely.
We had the bunkhouse stampede match. The old bunkhouse cage stampede. We still do those here because we had the NWA titles here for a long time. Like we were a part of NWA, and or at least a branch of it. And so we still do the bunkhouse cage matches. And my last one, I wasn't, the last man standing, but I was the one, runner up basically. I was the last one in there with the last man standing. And man, I got thrown out, and we had these basically fenced barricades, not real heavy duty. It was just the fencing, the wire fencing. And I fell out of the cage, and I was hanging on to the door, just hanging on for dear life. And somebody hit me with something and knocked me off. I can't remember what it was they hit me with, but I fell off and I was just laid out on the ground, sprawled out, had my eyes closed and everything, and just the tiniest little hand just reaches through the cage barricade and grabs my hand, and the photographer comes and gets a picture of it, and it's my daughter just bawling, holding my hand through the barricade. And man, we milked that sucker. we use that for storyline. That was good stuff.
That's awesome.
So you didn't smarten your daughters up.
No, I do everything I can to avoid that, honestly. There is something because it's funny they asked me, you know, he's so much bigger than you. How did you win? Or, you know, how are you planning on winning when you got these bigger
exciting
guys
for a dad to be a hero.
I'm not judging him.
Well, it wasn't even that. So many times, like I was, you know, I did the Mosquito for so long, you know, and I was getting beat for my first 2 years here. You know, I hadn't won any matches. And so, like, it got to the point where, like, I'd come home and she'd be like, did you lose again? Nope, I won. As a matter of fact, and I'll pull out the tag team title, and she's like, oh, you won a title. And, you know, it's just so huge to her, you know. When the little kids, when you don't take Santa from them, you know, and Christmas comes, it's huge for them. Yes. We do have a spot that we're planning with her in the future, though. She don't know it yet, but I'm just gonna have to keep my wife in tune and be like, look, when it comes, kick her out there. You know?
Nice.
But she's gonna love it. She swears up and down she wishes she could be a wrestler when she got bigger, but she's like just so dainty. She's like a little princess. You know, she's so fragile.
So when do you think that you'll get back into the ring? Soon, right?
March 6th. March 6th, I'm going to be getting back in the ring. I mean, I'm still training every week. My ankle's good to go. My leg's good to go. I'm ready to go. We're just making sure it counts, you know. I've been out for a while, and the fans I've really kind of gotten a little bit of a fan base here in Amarillo. They really seem to be behind me when I come out. So we just want to make sure and give them the best.
And Spitfire
comeback that we can.
Spitfire Marcus Jonston is a face, right?
Yes, very much so. I do everything I can to just really inspire, show the little kids that, you know, you don't give up on whatever it is you want to do. That's my biggest mantra is no matter what it is you want in life, you cannot quit it. You got to keep fighting and keep fighting no matter who tells you, no matter who tells you can't. Yeah. If you want it, you got to keep going for it.
So. Alan's got another question. Does Marcus think Edge should challenge Roman, Drew, or Finn Balor?
That's a good question because each match has different pros and cons. For Roman, of course, you know, you got the huge if he goes against Roman, everybody's going to be wanting Edge to win, you know, and
right.
If he doesn't win, it gives Roman all the heat that he's been pushing for, you know, which he's been doing amazing lately, building that heat.
Yes.
And beating Edge would just be one more cherry on the cake, you know what I mean?
Right.
And a big one at that. If he were to face Balor, I think that would be awesome as far as pushing the NXT brand. I think when he made his appearance last week, that was awesome. I love that he is spending every waking moment back trying to get people over. That is just the coolest thing in the world to me. I think that would be good. The only problem is I don't think they would catch the eyes with it that they would want, you know, for an Edge Mania match. I don't think they would get the emotion and interaction from Thunderdome, I guess. They're looking for.
Exactly.
That's the killer, man. That's the killers because you'll hear the and the boos, and you're like, it's better than silence, but at the same time, you know, it's not. It's just it's not
they're
real.
Pumping it in. It's annoying. And the chants are ridiculous.
They really are. Yeah, the "This is awesome" chants, like in.
Roman came out with
I don't
Paul
know.
Heyman
They're
on
just
Roman came out with Paul Heyman on SmackDown, and all of a sudden the Thunderdome broke out in a "You Suck" chant. But
yeah.
it was
They
perfectly
had that one in the
cute.
they had that one in the can for Kurt Angle, and they're like, oh, here's a good time.
Yeah, that's the problem. You can tell that it's very much the production team in control, and they're sweetening the crowd and they're controlling it, and it just the more you
You
try
know
to
what I
control
miss?
it, the more you try to make it contrived, it just doesn't work.
You know, there's two elements that I miss more than anything from back in the day. Is one, whenever the show would start off and you'd have the camera just panning around in all the people's faces,
Fans
and they're all
and the
screaming
signs.
and showing their signs. Yes, that was such an awesome opening for every show. That
Mhm.
and the back in the day when you'd have those real hot feuds where two guys you felt like whether you knew what wrestling was or not, you felt like they hated each other, and they'd get
Mhm.
face to face, and the crowd would get so into it, and you could see the camera shaking from this, from the rumblings of everybody stomping. And can y'all hear all that? Is that too loud?
Nope, we're
Yeah,
good.
you're good.
Okay. But just that emotion that you get from the crowd, that raw emotion from the crowd. I did a live show before I got back into wrestling. I took my nephew to a live show here in Amarillo, and Shinsuke came out. Actually, we had a lot of awesome interactions that night. Shinsuke came out, and it was when he was still face, and he would lean
Right.
up against the corner and like fall down like that. And that was right where me and my nephew were, and my nephew just ate it up. It was just so cool. And then the New Day, when they had their match, me and him had stayed up all night making a sign for New Day, the New Day Pops. We had,
Yep.
when they had the ice cream bars, and they
Yep.
were coming out on the little tricycle and all that.
Yep.
We made a New Day Pops sign, and they actually came out on the tricycle that night, and they were up there doing their jobbing and whatever. And I swear to you, Big E hopped down out of the ring and came up to me to sign my sign because he said, "This is an awesome sign." And
Nice.
then here comes Xavier, and then here comes Kofi, and I was just like, like I hadn't been back in the wrestling business yet, so I was so starstruck, and like the only words that could come out of my mouth was when like I said thank you to Big E, when he told me my sign was amazing. But when Kofi came up to me, he has been a huge inspiration for me.
Nice.
He's the underdog, always has
Of
been.
course.
So I always kind of
Kofi
looked at
Mania,
him for
man. It was great.
inspiration.
I was so happy
Yes.
for him.
Oh, yes.
I was happy for him when he got that moment.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well deserved.
But he
So
came down and sorry, go ahead.
No, where do you see Marcus Jonston in, say, 3 years?
In 3 years, my goal is really just to be going state to state, finding every new place I can. Like, I pretty much mostly stay here in Amarillo. We do get like the Texas Oklahoma State fairs that will go to Wichita Falls, or we get the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame shows, which that's my favorite time of the year, is the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame shows.
Right.
I actually got to wrestle in front of Mondo Guerrero and Abdullah the Butcher, and got advice from both of them after my match. So that was huge for me. That was huge for me. Definitely something I'll never forget. And I'll never forget Mondo Guerrero telling me to take my hand off his shoulder. Because this girl that was down there with us, she knew I wanted a picture with him, but I wasn't wanting to, everybody was up in his face, and I didn't want to bother the guy. It was during induction night and all that stuff, and I didn't want to bother him. She was like, no. So she went up there and asked her, hey, will you get a picture? I was like, thanks for embarrassing me. But I go over there to take a picture with him. He remembered me from giving me the tips the night before. And he just kind of reiterated some of it and went to go take the picture. And I just put my hand, around his shoulder like that. And he's like, just do me a favor, all right? And he's like, what's that? He's like, take your fucking hand off my shoulder. Yes, sir. Sorry about that.
No problem. So, is the ultimate goal for you wrestling for like AEW, Ring of Honor, WWE?
Growing up, always, you always say that's the goal. I'm 33 years old and I weigh 145 pounds.
Right.
and I've seen what the big companies do with guys of my stature.
Well,
I know there's not really like a long-term future for guys of me unless I really like I have to really step up my game if I'm ever going to be to that level, which of course, I mean, I'm always trying to step up my game. But as far as my goals, really, if I can, and a lot of people will probably hate that I even say this, but if I can just go town to town inspiring kids to go after their dream, I'm doing what I like to do. If I can show my daughter, if my daughter doesn't show any hesitation to follow her dream in her life, then I'm doing what I should be doing. If there's
nothing wrong with that, brother.
if there's a
Nothing.
6-year-old in Ohio that I can prove, man, if that guy can do it and hang in there with these giants,
Right.
then I can do whatever it is I want to do, you know? So that's what I'm really after. And if
That's
I
a
can make
great
a few
answer.
bucks doing it along the way,
that's a great answer,
I was
man.
just gonna
Because
say, if I can make some money along the way, then yeah.
yeah. But nine times out of 10, man, we hear the same answer over and over and over again. That's a great answer, right, Keith?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with wanting to go out there and, you know, be a journeyman and do it like that. I mean, I wish there was more. Not that there aren't places where you can do that, because obviously there are, but I wish there was more like the territories used to be. I wish there's more, you know, national recognition in that, where, you know, the magazines and other outlets that cover wrestling, you know, there's more exposure for guys like you that are doing that, you know.
Yep.
So
This
that's
jerk.
getting out there more than it does.
What's up?
What's up, yo?
How's it
How
going?
you doing, man?
Busting cameos.
Yeah, well, you step back here, so I'm back here in the heel locker room.
Oh,
Careful.
enemy territory.
Yeah, no kidding.
So yeah, that's great. That's a great answer. That's inspiring. I hope no matter what happens to you in the future that you just enjoy yourself, because it sounds like you have the same passion for this business that a lot of wrestlers that we talk to have. We as fans have that passion, and seeing stories like this and talking to guys like yourself keeps that fire burning. So man, just keep doing what you do.
Thank you so much. And like I said, get stuff like getting tips from people like Mono Guerrero and Abdullah the Butcher.
That's
that
awesome.
goes so far.
Yeah, that's
Like we have my big return, like I told you, is going to be March 6th. That same night, we have Rodney Mack coming out for a seminar and being part of our show. So I mean, like just anywhere you can pick up knowledge, get your name out, get your face seen. I mean, that's another huge thing. As far as being a green, one of the biggest things you can do is put yourself out there any and every way you can. Whether it's just promoting on Facebook, getting merchandise, getting out there, even like I said, just going out and helping putting up the ring, taking out trash, put yourself out there so people will notice you. Don't be the guy that just sits back and lets everyone else do everything, because nobody's gonna. The shadows aren't where you want to be.
You got to build a brand, right?
Yes.
Right, Keith?
Yes.
Yep.
And you want people to know they can depend on you. You know, if something goes wrong, I have 3 different gimmicks that I bring with me every Saturday, and like they can use me for just about anything they needed, as long as they don't expect me to be a giant.
You hear that,
You know?
Keith? You hear that? He keeps his gear in a bag. Haven't we had that discussion?
But not only that, but like he just said, he has 3 different sets of gear. He can give you 3 different presentations.
Nice.
And that's such an important piece of advice there too. You know, because if you're out there and you're just trying to get booked, hey, the more you can say to a promoter, I can do this. You don't like that? I can do this. Or you don't like that, but I can do this. And eventually,
Well, it's just like
you know,
it's
he's
just
gonna,
like I said, the
he's gonna
Mosquito
like
and Market. It's just like the Mosquito and Marcus Jonston. You know, I'd never wrestled without a mask until that booker said, I won't book him but I'll book you without. I won't book Mosquito, but I'll book Marcus.
Nice.
And so, I mean, you know, you got to have different ways to put yourself out there. Make yourself as available as possible. Like I said, I haven't wrestled since October, but I'm here every week just in case something goes down or they need me for something. So that's one of the most important things you can do is be available and be dependable.
Well, listen, man, we're getting close to the top of the hour. One last thing. Is there anything that you'd like to ask us? Because that's something that my brother TJ does on his podcast, and I always enjoy when they hit him with hard hitting questions, right? So he always has a guest on, and the last thing he says is there anything before we get out of here, is there anything you want to ask us?
Yes, I'm just going to try to do it before my phone dies. I'm sitting here watching the clock and watching my battery and seeing which one's going to end first.
You got
so
it, man.
If I lose you, I am so sorry. If I've really enjoyed it if I lose you. But my question would be, if there is one thing that you could bring back to the current product that you don't see anymore, other than the fans, what would it be?
You know, I think what it would be is I would like to see more variety, because I think we're losing those attraction guys. It seems like everybody is kind of in a cookie cutter now.
Yes.
Everybody wants to do the same things, and everybody does the same things. And you know what was great about like you mentioned Abdullah the Butcher. Where could there be an Abdullah the Butcher today? I don't think there could be.
No.
I think if Abby was just starting out today and trying to get booked, he would only go so far. Nobody would book him, above a certain level, because like you don't fit. You don't fit my preconception of what a wrestler is. And we know if somebody was foolish enough to do that and to not give Abby a chance, how much money they would miss out on. That's the thing about wrestling. It's always kind of been like the circus. Mick Foley talked about that.
Absolutely.
In his book, we're like the circus. If you don't like the clowns in the clown car, maybe you're going to like the trapeze artist. You don't like the trapeze artist, maybe you're going to like the lion tamer. Give people variety.
That's his answer. My answer is one word. Yes. Managers.
Yes.
I want managers. Back in the day when there was like 6 or 8 of them and they were all kind of competing, they had their stables.
Hey, Chris, I couldn't hear what you said.
I said managers. Did you hear me?
Yeah.
I think we're losing it. Managers.
Very much so.
Yes, because back in the day,
actually having a role of those managers.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at I still hear you.
Bobby the Brain Heenan. Jimmy Hart, Mr. Fuji. There was a time when there was so many of them, and they each had their own guys, and they each were trying to compete with each other. Not necessarily, but I mean, there was a lot more heel managers than there were face managers. But the thing is to have those guys out there added a little more to each match, add a little bit more theatrics to each match. I miss managers.
And it was great for the guys that weren't great talkers, that could do the other stuff. Now you got somebody that can cover up your weakness. And you can just go out there and do what you know is going to get you over, because you've got somebody else covering up for the part that would bury you in a second. If they ever let you.
That was a great question, by the way. That was a great question. That was the best question we've ever had. Managers. All right. He says variety. I says managers. This is Marcus Johnson. Spitfire Marcus Johnson.
Exactly.
Man, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on with us and talking, sharing your story. I wish you nothing but the best, and no matter what you do, it sounds like you got it all figured out, right? No pressure. Just get back in the ring and make things happen, man. I love it. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show tonight. I hope you enjoy yourself. What's that? I think we lost
him.
We probably lost him. But Marcus, thank you very much for coming on with us and
and get that title. Come back strong. Bring that title home for those little girls.
Absolutely. One last item of business, Keith, as we do every show, and that is today's episode of Around the Turnbuckle is brought to you by Mom and Pop CBD and Wellness Shop. Dr. Brown CBD uses the latest scientific knowledge and experienced professionals to create top-of-the-line CD products at affordable prices. Go to Mom N, the letter N, popcbdshop.com for all your CBD needs, and mention the Big Alboski. Well, that was Marcus Jonston. Keith, you got any parting gifts for everybody watching?
I just want to thank the audience, as always, for tuning in and spending an hour with us, talking about wrestling, enjoying wrestling. Like Alan said, originally this was just going to be a bunch of us sitting around, and one of the first things I said to him with that is, no one wants to hear me say it sucks for an hour every week. Exactly. So thank God you guys show up, you comment. Thank God our guests are willing to come on and sit here with an hour, because otherwise, it would just be me saying it sucks every week. And I'm pretty sure the letter campaign of this show is great, please fire the professor.
No.
Take off
one last item one last item that we need to discuss is the fact that tomorrow is Super Bowl Sunday, and we do not have a show tomorrow because I believe we'd be absolute fools to go on live at 6 o'clock when Super Bowl 55 starts at 6 o'clock. Therefore, there is no Around the Turnbuckle tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. We will be back with you next Saturday at 6 o'clock. And Keith, as of right now, there is no guest booked for the 13th. That is February 13th. There's no guest booked yet. So anybody out there that wants to be a guest, or Marcus, you're still watching, you know anybody that wants to be a guest, hit me up. We have Saturday the 13th open.
Save us.
Come save us. And one last thing, Keith. We already on Home Team Sports on Tuesdays at 6 o'clock, we gave our Super Bowl prediction. So I'm going to ask you, who wins the Super Bowl tomorrow? The Tampa Bay Bucks or the Kansas City Chiefs?
Well, this is not going to be scientific because I have not paid as much attention to football this year as I usually do. I mean, not that I'm any great scientific watcher, but I usually catch a few games. And I sort of have an idea of what's going on. This year, not as much, but I know what Kansas City is like. I saw Kansas City. Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Just keep that censor button for when it gets out of line.
You've seen Kansas City. They were the champs last year.
Kansas City. I mean, Tom Brady, at this point, I think it's pretty undisputed, and I hate the guy.
I do too.
But
guilty.
I gotta give it to him. He's the best I think he's the best quarterback that ever lived.
He's the GOAT, Keith.
He's the best that's ever lived at this point. And it kills me. Part of me dies every time I say that.
Right.
But the truth is the truth.
That's the truth. It's facts.
So, I mean, as much as it's hard to bet against him, I think Mahomes and the Chiefs are going to be just a little bit better.
So you got the Chiefs.
It's a hell of a shootout.
Now all right, so you're taking the Chiefs, which is a wise pick. A lot of people are betting on the Chiefs. Chiefs are favored by 3 or 3.5, something like that. I'm wrong. Anthony Joseph and our boy Prince Shango both picked the Chiefs, but my cousin Phil and myself picked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll see.
Yeah. I think it's going to be close, no matter what.
So. I just want a good game. I think
it's going to be a good game, and it's going to be very close.
Want a good game. I do. So we'll see you guys. We'll see everybody on. I'll see everybody on Tuesday for our post Super Bowl Home Team Sports, and the professor and I will be back here next Saturday, the 13th. Apparently, with my son, your nephew.
Yeah.
And whoever else wants to show up, we'll find out. We'll see you guys next time on Around the Turnbuckle.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you gonna do, brother? Oh yeah! Woo! What? What? If you smell what the rock